You know, my village people are asleep right now after a very nice meal of seaweeds and shellfish. I just arrived last night, and I too am feeling sleepy. Madam Facilitator, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to reflect on the situation of small islands developing states, particularly those in my part of the world, the Pacific region, before I conclude with excerpts from the Samoan experience. Access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food at all times has been recognized as a right for all people by the Pacific health ministers in endorsing the vision of healthy islands as an overarching framework for health protection and promotion in the Pacific. Pacific Islanders have traditionally enjoyed comparatively good food security, mainly because they have secured food in a variety of ways, from subsistence farming, trading and selling products, hunting and fishing. Now, this historic food security is being eroded by urbanization and a growing reliance on cheap and often poor quality imported foods that have little nutritional value. However, changes in both the supply and demand of food pose an increased threat to food security, which is reflected in the health of Pacific populations. Imported foods that are of poor nutritional quality, which are high in calories and low in vitamins and minerals, are contributing to high rates of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Consumption of fruits and vegetables is low, and vitamin and mineral deficiencies widespread. Domestic and imported foods are sometimes unsafe, leading to food-borne illnesses, and at a national and regional level, compromising the ability of our Pacific food products to meet export standards. Economic shocks such as recent increases in food and fuel prices mean that household budgets have to stretch further to buy food, particularly in growing urban areas where access to land for gardening is limited. Land tenure systems and land use policies influence the availability of land for production. Transport costs to rural areas and outlying islands further increase the price of food and limit inter-Pacific trade in locally grown food. Environmental shocks also impact food security. With climate change, the maximum speed of tropical cyclones is expected to increase by up to 20%. Rainfall variation destabilizes croplands. 70% of the crow's crop area is rain-fed. Agricultural lands are damaged. Coastal areas are inundated. Fresh water is salinized, and tuna stocks are shifting away from Pacific exclusive economic zones, partly due to the warming of the oceans. And the incidence of diseases and health risks like dengue fever, ciguatera poisoning is increasing. Unless resilience is built within the food system, climate change will increase food insecurity and malnutrition. Controlling the safety of imported food is also an enormous challenge for the Pacific. The lack of adequate food safety laws, regulations and standards and inadequate capacity to enforce them has resulted in the importation of low-quality food like old, damaged, and contaminated products and products with low vitamins and minerals and high in fat, sugar, and salt that pose serious health risks to consumers. Consumers are being exposed to food that is sold after its specified use-by date and or has undergone temperature abuse before or during distribution to the Pacific. Conversely, with agricultural products and fish comprising the bulk of exports from the Pacific, the failure to meet strict food safety and quality regulatory requirements of export markets has been an impediment to fully exploiting the Pacific's potential as a food exporter. The increasing reliance on imported food, the decline in local food production, the failure to enact and enforce food safety regulations and standards, and the shift in food preferences towards convenient, cheap, but nutritionally inferior foods are all placing Pacific populations at greater risk of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, malnutrition, and foodborne diseases. Furthermore, a lack of food security impacts directly on lifestyle-related behaviors, including tobacco and alcohol consumption, thus compounding the risk of NCDs, malnutrition, and poor individual and community health. Climate change and food security in the Pacific, fish and fishing are fundamental to life and the culture in the Pacific, and are mainstays of many Pacific countries' economies. However, threats are imminent through over-exploitation and environmental degradation of marine and our coastal habitats. Climate change seriously threatens the sustainability of the fishing industry and has the potential to undermine food security in a region strongly reliant on fish as a source of protein and the income derived from renting the sea to foreign fleets. Countries in the Pacific are encouraged to promote the use of inshore fish aggregating devices and aquaculture as a means to secure fish and as an ongoing part of food security, as well as look at ways by which fishing industries can diversify the way to produce, process, and distribute fish. Forests are often overlooked in the context of food security, but are very important in Pacific Island countries. They provide important staple crops such as breadfruit, mangoes, citrus fruits, and ubiquitous coconuts. Trees have long provided a pivotal role in traditional agroforestry systems by providing shelter, shade, and protection against the ravages of wind, sun, and salt spray. Mangrove forests and coastal trees act as buffers to wind and wave action and also contribute to food webs. Pacific countries are being assisted to manage forestry resources sustainably and promote the role of trees for coastal protection and within integrated agroforestry systems. As well, they are also supported to enhance within integrated agroforestry systems. As well, they are also supported to enhance knowledge of carbon sequestration in efforts to mitigate gas emissions. In this regard, Samoa is not too far off from its target of growing 2 million trees within 5 years. Agriculture is a highly vulnerable sector, to the impacts of climate change, particularly on yields and the types of crops that can be grown. Some of the more acute risks to agriculture production include cyclone impacts, droughts, emergence of new pests and disease vectors. Attention is placed on the importance of farmers receiving the best available information and guidelines on the choice of crop varieties and soil and water management options under changed environmental conditions. Under climate change scenarios, it is important to ensure that there is diversification of agricultural systems, in particular integrated cropping systems, trees, and possibly livestock production offer opportunities for sustainable intensification of food production while creating a resilient ecosystem. Organic agriculture applies such diversification practices in order to optimize nutrient flows and increase productivity and ability to cope with uncertainties. So what of the Samoan experience? The globalization of agro-food systems has often negatively impacted farming households. However, globalization is an uneven process, with actors in specific localities able to mediate and shape broad structural forces. The persistence of agro-food systems that are not highly commoditized in an increasingly commoditized global economy is of particular interest to those seeking alternatives to a global agro-food system dominated by corporate interests. Samoa is a possible example of an alternative agro-food system where agriculture and food networks are local to regional in scale and embedded in communities. Samoan village agriculture has shown great resilience in the face of market forces, and a recent series of disasters of successful cyclones, a tsunami and crop diseases such as the taro leaf blight and the African snail infestation. Samoa's economy is based on primary production, much of it at subsistence level. Crops, livestock, fisheries, and forestry accounted for 42% of our GDP in early 2000, but has fallen in recent years to 10% a decade later. However, agriculture continues to play an important role in the economy, employing around 2/3 of the national labor force. About 18,000 rural households live in the 360 villages of the two main islands in Upolu and Savaii. The main crops produced are coconut, cocoa, banana, and taro. A major staple as well as export crop was taro, but production has declined due to taro leaf blight. Improved disease-resistant varieties have since been developed by our research scientists. This has led to revived interest in taro production for both subsistence and export. Because of the destructive effects of cyclones and the taro blight, farmers have sought to diversify to the tamu or giant taro, the kava, and cattle production. In addition to agricultural exports, the Samoan economy is dependent on tourism, fisheries development, aid, and family remittances from overseas. Madam Facilitator, food is the gateway into all cultures. For Samoa, our food expresses our intimate relationship with the land, the sea, and our ancestors. We are blessed with an ocean so abundant in marine life that if we only take what we need, generations after will also be fed from this blue food basket. Indeed, the vast Pacific Ocean, with its rich fish stocks that are largely uncontaminated if properly managed, will provide ample food security for the food tables of the world of the future. We are also blessed with fertile volcanic soil that is capable of recovering from the worst of the natural disasters. In Samoa, most of our farmers are organic by default. It has been our tradition to work with nature rather than to oppress it. I see organic farming as not just our past, but our future. The story of the food is the story of the people and is a direct reflection of its pre-colonial, post-colonial, and history. Samoa is a small nation with a big story to tell. Samoa is in the throes of a culinary, agricultural, and nutritional revolution, with organics at the heart of it. With 35,000 hectares of organic land, over 10% of its entire geography, Samoa is on the move. Samoa's original food culture was straightforward but profound. Like many indigenous cuisines from all over the world, the diet was based on simple but nourishing preparations, hence made largely with fish, root crops, tropical fruit, coconut, and leafy greens, the best of the earth and the ocean. By default, organic, these basic dishes are what traditionally sustain Samoa. Then food colonialism began. First, the cheap meat imports, all considered as rejects in the countries of origin, were offloaded in the Pacific countries and slowly became integrated into the traditional Samoan diet with a shocking effect. The problems of health started to emerge, and so were issues around fast and processed food. Worse still was a growing generation of Samoans raised on these easy-to-get and easy-to-prepare food. The emergence of tourism as the economic hope brought with it misconceptions when trying to cater to tourists' perceived tastes. As a result, Samoan cuisine was put on the back burner. Local health suffered as local cuisine is replaced with inferior imported food, and so did the local economy, as food is imported, representing a loss of opportunity for local farmers and producers. But in the homes and villages of Samoa, Samoan cuisine has always been alive and well. There is now a sort of renaissance of Samoan cuisine. Underpinning this is the incredible organic revolution steered by local women's group, the Women in Business Development, that has swept across our nation and is making waves across the whole South Pacific region. Women in Business has fostered a staggering 700 organically certified family farms in Samoa. Health promotion and nutrition education has backed the organic message to return to local, more nutritious foods. And I am proud to say that I stand before you today as the president of the Organic Producers Association of the Pacific. Furthermore, Madam Facilitator, my government, with the support of our development partners, are collaborating to ensure that food security issues are adequately mainstreamed into national and regional climate change adaptation programs. As well, all initiatives to improve food security and build a minimum measure of self-reliance are adequately climate-proofed. We have taken urgent action to influence policies, environment, organizations, and individuals contributing to food security. We are addressing land, transport, energy, and information and communication technology systems that underpin action to achieve food security. A return to a subsistence way of life with the expectation of being able to feed the whole population is unrealistic. However, local production needs to remain the core of the food system, and the capacity of farmers and fishermen to trade their produce locally, regionally, and internationally needs to be supported and extended. Developing and investing in sustainable farming method is necessary, as is improving the ability of farmers to withstand and adapt to environmental economic changes and impacts of climate change. Similarly, well-managed, health-enhancing international trade of both exports and imports is important in maintaining food security. We have taken action to improve the nutritional quality of imports and to upgrade the food system so as to provide effective protection. The food industry, both internal and external to Samoa, has the potential to play an important role in improving the nutritional quality of the food available through product diversification and reformulation, such as reducing salt and nutrient fortification. I thank you for your attention. So forth.